should have known better. I genuinely was off base when I started calling Square Enix out for this censorship that they were putting in the Dragon Quest III HD-2D remake. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. The Tokyo Game Show just had a wild interview between the creators of Dragon Quest III HD-2D remake, and the remarks from the game's creator, Yuji Horii, have suggested that Square Enix's decision to remove the gender options and alter character designs were not coming from internal desires at Square Enix, but instead pressure imposed by, guess who? No one other than the ideologically driven Americans running the ratings bureaus that are forcing their puritanical ideologies onto other countries and making them adhere to the regulations. And if they don't, their game can't be sold for everyone, limiting the sales, limiting the reach, and ultimately making game companies bend the knee if they want to get sales. This is the true evil in the game industry. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full exhaustive article breaking down this very insightful interview going on at the Tokyo Game Show. And I first saw this on Twitter. A bunch of people were sharing it all at the same time. It blew up on my timeline because it was so insightful. We finally got the truth revealed out there for all to see. And in a weird way, gave me a moment of clarity, understanding exactly what the problem really is here. But to also be clear, this doesn't give Square Enix the get out of jail free for all the problems and mistakes and errors that they've had with creating their entire ethics department themselves, but I do look at this as a much bigger issue than just Square Enix. If anything, Square Enix is desperate to stay alive and doing whatever they can to make a buck right now to make sure they can keep their lights on at their company. So yeah, they're gonna bend the knee if it means they can make more sales. And people in America running these ratings bureaus know that. In a recent interview at the Tokyo Game Show, Yuji Horii discussed the changes, implying that they were necessary to comply with international regulations, particularly those in the United States. He mentioned that too much skin exposure would lead to a higher age rating, limiting the game's potential audience. And here's the thing. I understand the initial intent for the ESRB and all these rating boards that were initially created back in the day with Night Trap and Mortal Kombat and worrying that games were getting out of control. But what the ESRB has turned into is almost like a cult Marxist evolution of mafia. Like, if you don't adhere to their regulations, your company will be doomed because the sales will automatically be limited from the audience that you can sell to. So in a weird way, it's almost like the ESRB has lost the plot, but that's a much larger conversation for another day. Yuji Horii's frustrations with these constraints was clear as day, and honestly extremely refreshing to finally hear the truth in all this, as he admitted to not fully understanding why such extreme measures were necessary. And then they also touched on the whole getting rid of the male and female avatars and just switching it to Type A and Type B, you know, that whole thing when I made a video on it and people are like, why do you care? It's not a big deal. And I was like, okay, then why are they changing it if it's not a big deal? Yuji Horii felt the same way. He couldn't understand what the hell this reasoning was, who's making these decisions, and why it's so important to get rid of a male and female in a game.
男女選べるんだけど、男女選ぶっていけないのね。タイプ1、タイプ2なのね。ねえ。のこれ男女誰が一体文句言うんだろうと思うんだけど。そうね。わからないね。
Western regulations had forced them to abandon traditional gender options, instead labeling the characters as Type 1 and Type 2. It's like these characters are forms of diabetes. The change has really baffled developers and fans alike, where he said, I really wonder, who's even complaining about this? Which is a very fair question. I didn't see anyone having any issues with a male or female unless we look at the ESRB. And who's up top there? Who's in charge? And do they have some ideologically driven narratives in their own mind where they don't like gender? They want to remove gender from society. And are they imposing this on the masses because one single individual feels this weird way about a concept of gender? Yes, it might actually be that basic.
If we weren't doing our best to broaden adoption across all of these new devices, all of us as rating authorities were going to be marginalized to death. So we had to go around the world and basically talk to other game rating authorities and say, is there any way that you would consider using a system like this, and we'll program a separate algorithm for your region.
The impact of American regulations on Japanese game development has grown far more visible in recent years, and Horii's comment suggests that the influence is far more pervasive than many had initially given it credit for, including myself. Which is definitely saying something. And again, I was way off the mark when I was shooting all my anger at Square Enix. They're not innocent in all this, but they are not the main problem. Kazuhiko Torishima echoed the concerns, describing Western compliance as a kind of evil disguised as good. He pointed out that the United States' narrow-minded approach to the content regulation, especially regarding sex ed and age ratings, had been a trickle-down effect on Japan, basically saying that Japan is just falling in line with what America is enforcing on the rest of the world. And for those of you in back that aren't understanding the severe consequences of doing something like this and having one country basically regulate the world on what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, it completely destroys any kind of artistic creativity or narratives from other cultures to be ingrained and let people understand different aspects, perspectives, and worlds that people live in, instead of one ideologically, centrally driven narrative. That's a problem. Autism Capital said on Twitter, "This is a common thread in games and other media content. In Baldur's Gate 3, for instance, there is no gender. There are also only body type 1, 2, etc. Censorship like this is a slope that does not stop. There is an agenda to erode all meaning from life, where there is no man nor woman. There is no sense of self, and ultimately, there will be no identity left to latch onto, which will make people extremely docile, malleable, and in our opinion, ultimate proof self-destruct for humanity. These types of censorship are communism in a different package. This road leads to a Soviet Union-esque Politburo of an elite select group of rulers and everyone else. This is not a life you want. Push back against censorship. Don't buy content that's egregiously controlled. Don't use their talking points. Support developers who push back. And don't let yourself be bullied out of saying what's right. Stay based." Which was retweeted by Elon Musk, saying, "This is insane." The pressure to categorize content for age groups and avoid potential lawsuits has forced many Japanese companies, including Square Enix, into uncomfortable positions, altering their products to unnecessarily meet these foreign standards. And I can already tell that there's some people that are going to be typing away in the comments being like, yeah, Square Enix isn't innocent here. They have their own ethics department. You even talked about it in a previous video. And they have their own DEI stuff that they're pushing on everyone else. I need you to ease up, take a step back, and realize that maybe the reason Square Enix is creating a DEI department, including Sweet Baby Inc. and some of their stuff at one point, and having their own ethics department, is to fall in line with American regulations to make sure that they are not excluded from sales. And if you say, oh, they should be better than that, it's Square Enix, it's a behemoth organization in the industry, that they don't need to fall in line with ESRB standards or American regulations, they're going to do what they have to do to survive. Permaband on Twitter said, "The people managing Dragon Quest were asked questions in Tokyo Game Show about the remake of Dragon Quest III and the censorship. Their response is basically, I don't get why we had to censor. It's stupid and no one likes it. But the Westerners and Square Enix are making us do it for the global audience. Of course they did. And now the kicker is, it's no longer global release is more censored than the Japanese release, but even the Japanese players only have access to the same game as global, as in everything's censored. The quote-unquote global audience, neo-evangelicals from California, as obnoxious as always." And no, I don't take that personally, being in California myself, because I see it here on a daily basis, and they have influence that is extremely far-reaching, pushing ideologically driven values on the rest of the world. And if you don't accept it, you are the outcast, the bigot, the problem, and they need to exterminate you. Mangaloya wrote, "We are about to witness the death of Dragon Quest due to a combination of American gender insanity cult and the Zero rating. The creators are practically screaming at the top of their lungs, 'You're killing entertainment. Now you take a step back and you look at it and realize the ESRB doesn't care. Any of these other ratings bureaus in Europe or anywhere else don't care. They want to push their ideologies on the masses at any cost. Manga Lawyer continues, people often say, but you support artists like Yoshitaka Amano who bend gender. That's right, it's appealing because it's rare, a beautiful art form. Claiming everyone is the same destroys uniqueness. You don't change biology for that. Not everything is gender politics, morons. Which is basically going back to the point of, if you have one line of thinking, one mindset that is being imposed on the entire world, then the creativity is completely stifled. And this entire situation serves as yet another reminder that the entire game industry is undergoing a sincere reshaping by people that are not gamers. They are outsiders, Marxists, hardcore leftists that are pushing their ideologies and agendas and narratives in the gaming sphere. It's not being done by developers and creators who are bringing the stories to life, but the external forces who hold the power to determine what can and cannot be shared with audiences. This is a problem that constantly requires attention, because as soon as we look away, they try to steal back what isn't theirs. And you all know who I'm referring to, the ideologically driven woke narrative, the real evil in all of this. What started out innocent enough with humble beginnings, with the true intent of trying to assist parents purchasing games for their kids, has turned into exactly what a lot of people, including myself, have always feared. Using the ratings and what's allowed and what games qualify for what as a form of censorship to push an agenda, and it's really that simple. Which is exactly why those same people are trying to do anything they can to silence me personally, to shut me down, because this is the truth that they don't want to get out there. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking down this entire ridiculous situation. I really genuinely appreciate this interview from the Tokyo Game Show exposing the truth behind the scenes of what was even going on. We were wondering, how could this be happening? Why would they be doing this? And we maybe thought potentially it had something to do with this, but this is the proof in the pudding right here that, yep, anyone concerned with it that wondered if it had anything to do with the ratings board was spot on. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you appreciate what I'm doing, please consider hitting that join button. And as always, you stay smashing.
Dustborn reaches and Barrett. I don't even know what. I got Ron Coleman to represent me. Yeah, see, he's going to milk the lawsuit thing. Told you. Former PlayStation boss wants gamers to boycott because it has a female in it. Oh, my God. Whatever shall we do? My incel audience doesn't even know what the touch of a female is like, so they hate them. Alyssa Mersanti sent me, okay, which I wish they wouldn't fall for the bait. It's because of like this that you give these guys platforms. Smash J.